then it says, welcome to the main hospital. So that was the Sky Bridge in back of me after we get back to the main hospital. Right here we have the dialysis center where my hubby is at, right there. Now if we go this way, when I was in the float pool, I worked everywhere in the hospital, but down there is progressive care unit. Down here, if you take these stairs all the way down, that's where I did the autopsy tech in the basement down there. Down that hall, I worked for Dr. Mustani, just covering until they can find someone. But I worked in the adolescent center. I'm not too good at working with adolescents. I prefer the adults. But when I worked on the behavioral health unit, and I had just started there, and the manager of that unit said the doctor didn't have a tech to cover. So she said she needed me to cover, and she said until they get someone. And I said, oh, what time do it start? And she said 8 in the morning. I was like, oh no, I'm not a morning person. And she said, well, I picked you. And that was the end of that. So I worked for him for a little while until they found someone. Then I went back to my shift on behavioral health, and it was like I couldn't wait to get out of working that day shift, because I said they probably didn't like me too much anyway, because I didn't like that 8 o'clock shift. So anyway, about a year later, Dr. Mustani came up to my floor where I went back to, and he said, hey, there's a position open and I would love to have you work for me. And I was like, me? I was so shocked. I was totally shocked, because I was so sure they didn't like me. And I was like, I would love to work in a doctor's office like that. But I said, I probably, getting up that early, I just felt like I didn't think my attitude was right. I didn't know how I was acting. But anyway, for him to come up there, and he said, and the girls down there said, see if you can get her back. And he said, he asked them that he wanted to consider me and what did they think about me. And they said, we love her. And I'm like, what? I was so shocked. And also in Seattle, so I know it's an inside job with me and my low self-esteem. But when we was in Seattle, the nurse wanted to talk to me and, talk to Donnell, because they love him because he's so funny. But they were talking about, his stay there in Seattle and, the hospital. And I knew, I was telling them, y'all need to clean up my husband better. So I said, give me the washcloth and I'll be washing him myself. And it seemed like they all hated me, like I was just in the way. But this is making me cry. At the end of the day, she said, girl, in report, they love you. They were saying how you took care of your husband. I wish they had other people that come in and do that. And I said, they said that about me. I was so taken aback, because to me, it seemed like they were so upset with me because sometimes I would say, well, lift his leg up, make sure no BM is under there, and then if they skipped a step in how they wanted to do his bottom, you know, because he had broke down so bad much in his bottom. So I would watch how the I can't think of the name of the people now, and I worked at wound care, would come up and clean his bottom, and I wanted it done exactly like they did it. And some of them would skip, so I would get up from that couch when it was time for him to turn to make sure they did his bottom exactly that way. So some of the nurses would say, well, we don't have to do that part. I say, yes, you do. And I would get so mad. And I say, well, if you're not gonna do it, I'll do it. And then after a while, they start just letting me do it. But my back was so tore up, so I couldn't do too much with his turning. So I needed their help, but I didn't mind, you know, taking care of him and cleaning him up. But I was just so taken aback. So when I look over my life, and I'm always taken aback when somebody say, you know, they like me or say something good about me. And I wish I wasn't that way. Because if I can believe half of how others believe in me, I just think I would have came so far and not wasted so much time. But I'm still here, so I got a chance. All right, love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.